Hello and welcome to episode 400, to episode 206 of First Geek 411. I'm your host, Cameron Franklin, and with me, as always, Emma. How you doing today?
In a good mood. Can't complain. How about you?
Doing good. Audio's going through the stream, all of that kind of stuff, so we're ready to party.
Woo!
Speaking of party, all the way from the Great White North, Shanine, how you doing?
So ready.
I feel like I should have grabbed something. No, I was wondering. I have like a stack of our book club books like right next to my desk, and I was like, do I still have Ruby's Curse there? But I don't. That one has been moved somewhere else. But this is a Doctor Who invasion. We are chatting about the latest news, and then kind of about the fandom in general. And before we get into it, we are First Geek 411. You can find us on all social medias at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can join our Discord server if you want to chat with us between shows, or shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. And you can also watch live Monday nights at 6:45 Mountain Time on twitch.tv/onegeek411, or find us over on YouTube. And then you can also check out our Redbubble store. Let's get into a little bit about how we've been. Shanine, what have you been up to this past week?
Many things. So I recently read the graphic novel Hush, the Batman story, and it was amazing, and I loved it, and it was like everything I wanted out of a Batman story. And then we watched the animated movie of it, and it was the most disappointed I've ever been.
Oh dang!
Like especially like in a comic book movie, and especially one of the animated ones. I'm like, man, this is why I don't read the comics before I watch superhero movies.
Oh man!
Because then you end up sad.
Yeah.
It was disappointing.
I think the only other
like...
time I've tried that was Shang-Chi, and I was disappointed, mostly because of how bad the comic book was. So a little bit of the opposite, yeah. But, Sorry, go ahead. I kind of jumped in.
No, yeah, it was like they stopped halfway through the graphic novel, but we're just like, and that's the end, and you're like, no, but it's what?
What?
It's not. Yeah. So if you want to read and watch it, I recommend watching it first, because then it'll probably be pretty good, and then you can read the comic, which is like actually really good.
Makes sense.
Yeah. We also finished watching the Demon Slayer Entertainment District arc. So good. I love how each arc, it just has like a different feel to it, and it was wild, and I didn't expect to cry again, but I did. They get me every time.
How many arcs are in a season? Is it 2 arcs?
Like one, I think.
Oh, okay.
And their seasons are arcs.
Oh, okay.
That's why some seasons have like different amounts of episodes, because it's just the arc.
Nice. So that's the
from my
way to do it.
understanding, anyways.
It's like the use of the word series.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
A lot of British shows use the word series instead of season.
Yeah. I like that a lot. Like, that's kind of my big complaint about a lot of shows is we have to hit a quota type thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, just tell the story you need to tell.
Because then you get stuck with icky filler episodes that just don't work.
Yeah.
And yeah, Demon Slayer does not have that. It was fantastic all the way through. It really got me. I hated it a little bit. I was like, oh man, I'm really starting to enjoy this character. And then it did the classic anime thing, and I was like, well, okay. Yeah.
I feel like I want to like ask questions, but I'm like, oh, those are probably all gonna be spoilers.
Yeah. So once you've watched the Entertainment District arc, come talk to me because I have things to say.
Because I have thoughts that
Thoughts
need to be
and
discussed.
opinions.
Yeah, other than that, I also spent the weekend in Banff. Got to go out to the mountains with a friend, so that was just relaxing and fun.
Nice.
And we stopped at the Calgary Zoo on the way home and got to see penguins and a 25-day-old gorilla baby.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
It's
it's so
adorable.
cute.
I'll be posting some pictures.
Cute, cute, cute.
Emma, what have you been up to?
Not a whole lot. Super exciting. I finished moving / unpacking, which is super exciting, except for the oddball thing here and there. And started reading the book club book and just reading in general because I now have time to read books again. Yay! Which has been really nice. And the one really fun thing that I did this weekend was I went up to San Jose, well, Monterey, but I stayed in San Jose, which is like a 5-hour drive from where I am, and met up with some of my high school friends. And we went to the Monterey Bay Aquarium because they opened a new exhibit, which was really exciting. And it was a deep sea, deep ocean exhibit, which is really hard to do because you have to have like special pressurized tanks and things. Oh, hi, kitty. He came back. And I got to poke a giant deep sea isopod, which is basically just a giant roly-poly-oly, but make it ocean. And they're like this big.
Are they the things
it
that look
was-
like Kabuto?
I don't know what that
Oh,
is.
it's a Pokemon.
You know the pill bugs?
Yeah.
Potato bugs. I call them roly-poly-olies. They're essentially a giant version of those. They're so cool. And I got a pet one, and we had a lot of fun. And yeah, that was my fun nerdy thing. And it was so cool. If anyone ever has a chance to go to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, I highly recommend it.
What are your thoughts on the parts of the book club book you've read so far? This is me putting
Interesting format.
this is me putting out feelers, trying to gauge where we're gonna be at for book club. Of course, we're talking about book club on Paranisi, which is May 26th, right here on Twitch. But yeah, how are you feeling?
I mean, I'm only like 25 pages in,
Okay.
so like I am trying not to judge anything yet, but I'm curious to see where it goes. That's the big thing.
I think I'm about as far as you are, Emma. And like I have no clue what's going on, but I'm loving it.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
like that style.
Yeah.
Like this is not a spoiler, like it's journal entries,
Mhm.
and I just love that. Epistolary, I guess, is kind of, but not. Yeah.
I'm definitely
good.
super curious to see where it goes.
So I also read some for book club. I think I'm around page 60. I'm in the second like section of the book. Feels weird calling them chapters because kind of like arcs of Demon Slayer, they are not remotely the same length.
Yeah.
But like, because the first chapter is like, I don't know, 20 something pages, and then the next one is like 80 pages or something. And so I'm in that second section. I was super confused around page like 20, 30, and I am still super confused around page 60 something. Not necessarily in a bad way, but
Yeah.
I said this last time, and I feel like this is getting more and more true the more I read of it. We need this book club so someone can tell me what's going on. Like, I feel like this is the book club where, like, I would go to English class and the teacher would be like, oh, this thing? Yeah, this is the symbolism for the whatchamacallit over here. And I'm like, oh, duh, that's so obvious. How could I have obviously missed that? I feel like that's what's going to happen here, is that I need like one of y'all to educate me about what's going on in this book.
We will absolutely do that.
But then other than that, we earlier today got to season 9 of How I Met Your Mother in our rewatch. So I also want to say shout out to Edmonton, gets a reference at the end of season 8. And so, but yeah, so we made it. We now have to just get through this season-long arc leading up to a wedding. It's
Oh boy.
gonna be great. I'm sure this is not gonna be the weakest series or season of the show in any way, shape, or form. But at least the mother's here now? Question mark? I guess at least there's that. Yeah. So we'll see. This is my first time rewatching season 9 since it aired. So we'll see how I feel about it. Then beat Horizon Forbidden West this week. So
Cutting that off.
yeah, that was super exciting. Overall, I'm trying to keep it spoiler free, especially for Emma. Overall, enjoyed it. I think that it does a good job at setting up for where the story is going to go next, while still kind of giving you a decent conclusion. I feel like it did that a little bit better than Zero Dawn in terms of like having. I feel like the tease is a more like interesting tease. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
There.
Yeah.
In terms of what's going on. And so, whereas the end of the first one, I feel like it was just like, is this really what the next game's going to be about? And plot twist, it wasn't. So,
Which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think with the first one, they didn't know how successful it was going to be. So they like wanted to put something in there for like a possible future. There goes the cat throwing things around.
Yeah. I think you're definitely right. I think they're much happier to say, well, what could a season 3 look like? Or a season 3. A part 3 look like, rather than what would part 2 look like. So,
yeah. I mean, I haven't finished.
I mean, just in terms of the
yet,
success of the franchise is what I mean. So,
yeah.
It's much more of a known quantity that it was going to do well compared to
the first game.
Compared to Zero Dawn, where it was their first time doing like a third person game and not a shooter, or not directly a shooter, I guess.
Not a shooter in the traditional sense.
And so, yeah. So that's it. I still got to go back in and do a lot of the side stuff.
That's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
I've been putting off the main quest because I don't want it to end.
Yeah, I hit level 50 and realized that meant I probably should do the main story.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I was like, we should probably get going here. But that's, but yeah, so like I said, I need to go through and do that and then clean up all the rest of the trophies and stuff like that. So that'll be my next thing. And then the last thing is on Saturday, we spent a very hot day at Scarborough Renaissance Fair, about 45 minutes from where we are, with Taos and Artsy Adventurer. And so that was a lot of fun hanging out with them, getting to go around, check out all the booths. Didn't do too much shopping. I feel like it was a good amount of shopping. But it was also one of those things where there's a lot of stuff that was like super cool, but it was also like 95 degrees or whatever. And so the last thing I wanted to buy was like a very big coat or something like that. It's like, oh, here's this really cool pirate jacket. Sure would be a shame if I could never wear this because I live in Texas. So.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. But always fun. Hopefully we'll be going to another Renaissance Fair in the fall. So hopefully that one will have a little bit better weather. Last year we went to Scarborough and it rained the whole time we were there. And so this time we were like, well, at least it's not going to rain this time. It'll be great. And then we got there and we're like, sure wish it was raining. So can't win them all.
Nope.
So, listeners, let us know what you've been up to over in the Discord. Love to hear what's been going on. And let's get into our topic of this show. We are talking all about Doctor Who. We have some Doctor Who news, some general stuff about the fandom. Someone added to the note, because our show notes say, topic of the show, what is one big news story we want to talk about? And then somebody wrote, that top one, obviously. The most biggest news. And so let's get into Doctor Who. Shanine, do you want to take us to one of these news stories?
All right. Well, I guess the top one is the important one. We have our new doctor. Yay!
Ba, 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 ba.
As I said last week, they knew what they had to do and they did it.
Our 14th doctor will be Ncuti Gatwa. He is known for Netflix's Sex Education and has gotten some BAFTAs and things. I personally have not seen him at all, but
And he's
that's
Rwandan.
not unusual for
That's
a
awesome.
doctor anyways. Yeah.
Yeah. They like to pick their new, like, people who are relatively new to the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot of times they kind of do the same approach that Star Wars does, where it's a lot of people that are like popular but are known but are not widely known.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like I don't want to say it's like their first big break by any means, but a lot of times it seems like they take that approach of like, oh, who can we bring in?
Pull in that like some people would recognize, but is still a fresh
Mm-hmm.
face, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
I know, like, the worry that I've expressed in the past coming off of Jodie Whittaker was that they'd go back to having straight old white men,
Mm-hmm.
and that is certainly not the case here. And it just means they knew they had to continue with the representation that they started with Jodie, and they went with it. And I'm excited to see where this is going to go and what they're going to do with it. Super exciting. So I haven't seen anything he's in either, but super excited. Can't wait. Plus, it's our lovely old, new old showrunner, which means it's only going to improve from here.
Mm-hmm.
Things are going to be fixed, if you will. So.
Yeah. I just want to say, Ncuti is younger than I am, which
How does that make you feel, Cameron?
not great. Like, you know.
If it makes you feel any better, he is the exact same age as me.
So like, yeah, that's a thing. So didn't specifically need that on a Monday afternoon, but here I am on his Wikipedia page learning things. So, but
I also, I watched the video that's included on the BBC.com announcement article, and it's lovely. They're just like briefly interviewing him about it and hearing him
Yeah, I saw that.
talk about Doctor Who. Like, he seems like a longtime fan and is really excited about bringing something new to the Doctor, but still like respecting the importance of the Doctor and things like that. Like, I'm excited. He seems like, I feel like they picked the right person.
Mm-hmm.
see if I can get that. going. Is it going to cooperate? No, it is not.
I do know. So he was. Where did I see that? I don't know if that was in this article or not. Cameron, you said he was
He's Rwandan.
Rwandan. Thank you. Yeah, he was born in Rwanda, but it looks like I read that he has some Scottish. Either he grew up in Scotland or some connection there. He's, I think, the third with that, but it's cool that he's the first person of color to take the role, which I think is super cool.
Yeah, so from the wiki, his family escaped from Rwanda during the Rwandan genocide in 1994 and settled in Scotland. They lived in Edinburgh and Dunfermline. So, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. I still haven't seen any of Jodie's Doctor, and I feel kind of the same way about that y'all were when we talked about some of the other MCU movies in our Doctor Who spoiler cast, and I'm raising my hand so I can tag here in the corner. And so it's one of those that's like, man, I was so excited about that, and then kind of just like everything I heard was just like, oh, well.
Yeah.
And so.
And that's like, I feel bad for Jodie in her seasons because it wasn't anything that she had control over. And we all had high hopes for that, and it was just rougher showrunner lead, if you will. Not to point any fingers,
but 2-point fingers.
But 2-point fingers. So, with the return of Russell T Davies, I'm hoping that he can redeem some of Jodie's storylines and sort of patch up the holes and get back to good standing. So.
And we know there's still some stuff with the Jodie, right? They still have like 2 specials. Am I wrong there?
I feel like specials. And plus there's the 60th coming up, which we have some news on as well. And I feel like if Jodie signed on for that, I mean, like if, as in we don't know if she is or not. Like I feel like Russell T Davies would use that as an opportunity to improve on her 13th character, or 13th Doctor.
Yeah, that was basically going to be my question: is who is in charge of those? Who's in charge of the 60th anniversary?
Davies.
It is okay.
Yeah, because the tradition with the show has been the showrunner leaves with the lead actor. So when typically their last episode is the same one for showrunner and lead actor. We saw that with Russell T Davies and pretty much every previous showrunner of New Who. So except for Ninth Doctor, but he had a short 1-season run, so And
I feel like that's a very important transition to have under one showrunner.
Yeah.
Like your very first transition to a new Doctor in New Who.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Well, Emma already mentioned it, but we got some news about that 60th anniversary. Sheen, I think you added this to the notes, but I don't know for sure. What do we got for the 60th anniversary?
All right. It was announced that David Tennant's 10th Doctor and Donna, played by Catherine Tate, will be returning for the 60th anniversary.
I am
Yay!
crazy hyped.
Both super excited and super nervous for that. Not for David Tennant, because we've seen that happen before pretty well, but I'm nervous for Donna Noble's return, given that we literally left off with her, having her memories wiped or whatever. Like, she had such a solid ending, no matter how sad it was. So I'm super excited to see, like, what the flip side of that looks for her, but at the same time, like, slightly nervous for what they're gonna do with it.
Well, yeah, in the article that I was looking at from davidtennant.co.uk,
Which I gotta say, seemed like the most fake thing ever. Like, when I opened that, I was like, is this a real website? Like, did Janine just put some, like, virus on my computer?
I mean, the Doctor Who Facebook page shared it, so...
Yeah.
But Russell T. Davies says, they're back, and it looks impossible. First, we announce a new Doctor, and then an old Doctor, along with the wonderful Donna. What on earth is happening? Maybe this is a missing story, or a parallel world, or a dream, or a trick, or a flashback. The only thing I can confirm is that it's going to be spectacular as two of our greatest stars reunite for the battle of a lifetime.
Yeah. I'm super happy, super hyped. I loved Catherine Tate's Donna.
Yeah.
I said this, like, when Deanna and I were watching it, but Catherine Tate is funnier in her introduction in Doctor Who than, like, her whole run on The Office. Like, it was crazy just to be like, what happened when a great comedian was given great stuff to work with.
Yeah.
Whereas it definitely takes them a long time to figure out what to do with her on The Office. It felt like she just clicked right in Doctor Who. And it was so good.
And I think, too, actually, her introduction, The Runaway Bride,
Mm-hmm.
it was initially supposed to be just a one-off appearance for her. Like, Donna wasn't supposed to become a companion. But then, like, the response was so positive, and she, like, enjoyed the role so much that she was willing to sign up for it. Because that was another Christmas episode. That, like, people just loved the character so much that they ran with it. Which is great.
Yeah, I love this. I'm also, as you said, Donna has, like, a pretty definitive, like, she can't remember this or else storyline. So I'm very curious to what that's going to do. I like that from what you read.
Which is what I'm a little nervous about. But
yeah, and, like,
continue.
With what Janine read, it's like, oh, this could just be a flashback. It could be something else. The part of me that is... like, all conspiracy theory is it's none of those things that it listed off. It is not a flashback. It's not a lost memory. Like, whatever that
pull another Rose Tyler in the 50th where it's like her but not her.
Yeah. I just feel like there's no way it's those things in specific, because that's what the lawyers cleared that they were allowed to post. Yeah. And so...
There is an underlying thing to that I put on there in addition to that. But we will also be getting the lovely Wilfred back, Donna's little grandpa, the cutest, one of my all-time favorite side characters in all of entertainment. Like, not just in Doctor Who, but, like, in anything I've ever seen. He is one of the best side characters ever. Like, he's not even, like, a main character. He's a side character full on, and they just went hard and fast with him, and we're just like, we're gonna make this the most realistic person in this scenario possible. And he is just like, you want to, like, walk up to him in the initial, like, whatever, whenever he's on, and, like, give him a hug and just be like, it's okay. Like, I know it all seems like you're going crazy, but he's gonna be back as well, which is super exciting. Makes sense given that Donna Noble's gonna be back. So that does kind of stem off of the like, what are they gonna do with Donna Noble? We'll see.
I adore Wilf. I'm excited.
Me too.
Yeah, he's best grandpa.
That's grandpa. 10 out of 10.
Also,
I want him as my grandpa.
also a classic. I found a GIF in its natural habitat with him saluting in the rain. Like that was one of the GIFs that I'd seen a whole lot, but I never knew what it was from. And then got to that scene. I'm like, oh, Doctor Who. Got it.
Yeah.
But then that is going to bring us to our third Doctor Who news story, because we are all Doctor Who all day. What do we got? What do we got for this one?
This one I just saw, so I suppose I can talk about it. Unless Janine, you want to. I don't know if you've read this or not. But this just came out today. This was just announced today. But we have what sounds to be a companion role. Yasmin Finney, I believe that's how it's pronounced. It sounds like a companion role, but what little information we have is that she's joined the cast playing the character of Rose, which is very curious. It's unclear whether that's referring to Rose Tyler or a separate character, because it does sound like she's taking on a companion role. I saw a theory in the comments that possibly this Rose is Donna Noble's child, who then, like, some of her memories leaked through of Rose interacting and meeting Rose Tyler and decided to name her own child Rose. Obviously, that's just a fan theory, but her scenes are supposed to coincide with the 60th anniversary, so that could mean anything. That could mean it's a different version of Rose Tyler. It could be her own character that has some random connection to Rose Tyler. We don't know, but it's super exciting either way because it's another person of color, which is great. Expanding all of those horizons. We love it. So let's see.
Have y'all heard of Yasmin Finney or seen her in anything?
I have not, but I was just gonna read this.
Apparently,
Russell T. There's a
Go ahead.
There's a quote from Russell T. Davies in this article that I'm gonna read that says, "Life on Doctor Who gets brighter and wilder. How can there be another Rose? You'll find out in 2023, but it's an absolute joy to welcome Yasmin to the Doctor Who set. We all fell in love with her in Heartstopper, which is a show, apparently. One of those shows which changes the world, and now Yasmin can change the Who-niverse. So, Heartstopper is a TV show on Netflix. Oh, it looks like that just came out.
Yep. And it looks like that was her first major role, was Heartstopper. She has nothing else on her Wikipedia except for that and Doctor Who. So.
Okay. Yeah. Teens Charlie and Nick discover their unlikely friendship might be something more as they navigate school and young love in this coming-of-age series. So there's that. Super excited to see where it goes either way. Haven't seen her in Heartstopper. Haven't watched it, obviously. But I'm definitely interested. Knowing R.T. Davies, it's not going to disappoint, even if it's iffy. Whatever he does, like he has had his iffy moments just like any other person, but like even his iffy moments are like, well, okay, I can let that slide. So like, yeah, at least for me personally. So
Definitely excited. I'm really excited that we had this Doctor Who special on the calendar since like April, and I was very happy that we got some Doctor Who news. And then
oh yeah,
it just seemed
a
like we
sudden onslaught of
yeah
news right before the special.
yeah, it was very convenient. And it's one of those things where it's like it's a great time, and I think that hopefully this will be the first Doctor for me that I try to like keep up with as they're airing. And we'll see if that actually like pans out. But I'm very excited to see where we're going. And then this got hit on earlier, but what are like, do y'all have theories about why her name is Rose? Like Emma, you mentioned the memory one. Do y'all have any other theories for why she would be named Rose?
I mean, I'm trying to remember. Sorry, there's yard work going on outside. I think it was Rose who absorbed the stuff from the TARDIS at the end of, yeah, that was the end of season 1 with the Ninth Doctor. So really the only thing that I've thought of is like potentially that gave her regeneration capabilities, but that's the only thing I can think of as like my first instincts. But at the same time, that's like, I don't know how that would work because I'm going to show my complete Doctor Who nerd here. Technically, the TARDIS functions off of the power of a dying star and not the regeneration capabilities of Time Lords. So I don't know how those regeneration capabilities would get transferred onto Rose in being exposed to that radiation. So I don't know how that would work. Says the person who's spent way too much time learning about how the heck the TARDIS works, just for my own entertainment. But that's like the only theory that I've come up with in the past hour and a half.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I really like the idea, like, under extreme circumstances, someone else could gain the ability to regenerate. Like, we get that to, like, a lesser degree with River Song, where she doesn't have, like, the full, like, long-term regenerative abilities of a Time Lord, but has some of it.
But she is technically partially Time Lord due to her exposure,
right?
Due to Amy's exposure while pregnant to the time vortex.
Yeah.
Because this is 100% the thing that I know.
Right. And that's kind of my point, is it's like, that's a very extreme circumstance. But like, we have kind of seen that same type of thing happen. Like, it's not something that like just being a companion would give you the ability to do this. But if something else out there happened, it would be something that the character could gain that ability as like a one-off kind of thing. And then, yeah, I don't know, I think that would be a super interesting take. My initial take is that somehow, especially since we got the news for David Tennant, that somehow his doctor is going to have named someone and is going to name them Rose. And I feel like that's like the lowest and worst like hanging fruit.
Yeah.
But like just in terms of like we're going to clearly tease that this character is named Rose. Just kidding. The doctor named her. That's all that it means.
The only other thing that comes to mind for me is it's another repeat scenario of Ginny. Not Jenny, Jenny. From the Doctor's Daughter. who is now David Tennant's wife. And technically, in real life, also the daughter of another Doctor Who.
Mhm.
But, where some Time Lord gets a clone child made of them, who, kind of going off of what you were saying, Cameron, then gets the name Rose attached to them.
Mhm.
So, Janine, thoughts?
I don't. So many things.
So many
I like
possibilities.
I like the idea of Donna having had like this small memory and naming her child Rose. I feel like whenever I hear Rose, my mind is instantly gonna go to Bad Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm super curious what this could mean. Like it's got to be something. Like it's not like you don't name a character after another character that prominently without, and like that's why I said like my thing. Like that's what comes to mind for me. But that's such a bad idea. Like that's just like such low hanging fruit. Like it needs to be something way more. Like even if something like that did happen, it needs to be something.
You don't do that in a film or TV without like very intentionally like doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
And for some reason.
Unless the parallel universe thing that he mentioned in regards to David Tennant and Catherine Tate is actually what it is, and this is a parallel Rose.
Yeah.
Also a possibility.
Yeah, I would not be mad with Doctor Who Multiverse.
Yeah, nor would I.
Yeah, because they've already
watch him do it better than Doctor Strange.
They've
Called
already
out.
like done bits of it because like they did the thing with that's like how the Cybermen come about but that's with David Tennant, right? It's in they end up in Zeppelinville because that's how we have to prove that it's an alternate timeline, is that everybody got really into Zeppelins. And so like I could definitely see them doing some sort of alternate version, bleed over, something like that. Multiverse would be pretty cool. And then we get two doctors side by side. And we get more Jodie Whittaker with a different showrunner.
Fingers crossed. Team the 13th Doctor.
So I guess that will bring us out of our news and kind of get to some general discussion on Doctor Who. And the question I wanted us to start off on is, what separates Doctor Who from other shows? And then similar to that, because I think these are going to go together, what sets the Doctor apart from other characters? Like there's a lot of long-lasting shows, but why do you think Doctor Who has persisted while others have not?
I mean, I think the surface level, like, flashing in your face answer is how the rotation of actors is built into the world building of the show. Like, the main character dying off is sad and often horrifying, if you will, but the death of the main character does not mean the end of the show. It doesn't end the show if you kill off your main character. It just means that then a new take on that character gets to come in and be put through similar trials with different outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the like surface level of the show in general, is just like it's a fictional story that took on the reality show concept of rotating characters where the main character stays the same in one way but changes in other ways while still keeping the same feel of the entire show.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. I think up until the 13th Doctor, I would have said just the show's ability to emotionally connect with the human experience. Like, I don't know. There was just so. Like, even though the Doctor was an alien and we were traveling to all these spacey places, it still was very much about humans and the human experience and like life and love and heartbreaks and going through hard things. And it just had a lot of hopeful things to say about that. And I think it was just really good at connection.
I like what both of y'all said. Emma, what you were saying kind of reminded me of whenever they reboot a comic book. And it's like there's a new number one. And or whenever they like have like these big events, and then like that's supposed to then help bring everybody in because it resets the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can definitely be a big part of it. It gives like, I mean, like, there's like, from my own experience, like having a new showrunner and a new doctor has given me another point to jump back in. It's kind of the like, oh, I fell off, but I'll get back into it now. Versus
it's a little easier to get back in
right.
to Doctor Who when you've missed a few seasons.
Right.
Because there is like these bookends throughout that you can jump into.
Right. And I feel like it's great with that because it's not like a hard reset, so it doesn't feel like a spinoff.
Yeah.
But it gives this soft ability to adjust the status quo, get reacquainted with new characters, have a good epilogue for like your specific version of the Doctor and the specific companions for assuming that there's none that carry over. Of course there are time to time those that carry over. But I think it gives like that really good part to tell, or to like choose to have a conclusion story without having to end the show. And I think that that's a place that we see again, as I say, as someone who's now on season 9 of How I Met Your Mother, like they indeed did not have an exit strategy. And so I think that that's something that from a storytelling perspective connects with a lot of people. And I'm just echoing what Shanine said now, like that like gives you that ability to have these heartfelt moments and have stakes. Like that's one of the things that I like about Doctor Who is that in a story about this regenerating Time Lord, it still feels like there's stakes.
Yeah.
Like, sure.
You have the personal relationship of that specific Doctor with those specific companions.
Exactly.
And it's not just like some immortal person.
Exactly. And it's not like a hard reset in the sense that the Doctor doesn't remember the other companions, but it is like a hard reset with how the Doctor's personality changes. And I think that that's one of the things that like I think that they've handled pretty well is even in the era of all white men, they all felt like different people and didn't feel like they were trying to play the same character. Some are more similar than others, but like it didn't feel like they were trying to play the same play the same characters or play the same interpersonal dynamics with their companions. And so I feel like that speaks to a lot of people. Like I said, that's one of the things that I really like about it is it well, like I said, there is the plot armor of like the Doctor is going to make it out of this, but there's not the plot armor of will David Tennant make it out of this.
Yeah. Will this specific variation of the Doctor make it out of this event? Yeah, which is definitely like one of the things that has kept me coming back to the show, was that each version has been their own person. It's still the same person with the same life experiences and like the umbrella sense and the same knowledge. It's the same person with the same history, same knowledge, same whatever, but they are fundamentally a different person in the sense of like their behavior, and a literal person. Literal, very physically different person, and how they behave and act and respond, just with all of the same memories. And it's a very complicated system without Time Lord's work, but you get it. Same person, but not.
So then with that, that's kind of our high level, like from a show perspective, or from like a, I don't know, a structural perspective. But what about from a character perspective? Why do you think it is that through all of these incarnations of the Doctor, that the show has continued to stick with people in the sense of like what sets the Doctor apart? Why do you think that they are constantly able to keep things fresh like this? I'll go for me. I think the big part is that Doctor Who is a lot like the Great British Bake Off. And that is that it knows entirely what it is trying to be and just focuses on doing that the best it can. Like I think I've talked about this before, but that was one of my big things getting into Doctor Who, is like I was trying to watch it like normal sci-fi, and it is most definitely not normal sci-fi. And it definitely took a while for me to connect with the show because of that. But I think once I got to that point, it started to hit a lot differently. And that was kind of when I started to get into it. I've said before that that River Song showing up is when I started liking Doctor Who. Because that was the first time that we got to see a backwards story in it. And I feel like as New Who has continued, at least from the parts that I've seen, they've gotten more and more set in the like what kind of cool time stories can we tell. It kind of became a little bit less like monster of the week and became a little bit more of like what are these crazy things that we can do because time travel.
It goes back to me trying not to point fingers.
Yes.
At certain people.
Yes, like I think that's a big part of it. And then as a character, I think the fact that anyone can connect with a Doctor. Like it's kind of is the show of like, this one's maybe not for you, but the next one might be. And I really like that kind of goes into what I was saying earlier about all the Doctors being like feeling distinct, even in their similarities, or even when they're more similar. That there's like those like little character traits and things like that make them all distinct. And so everyone can kind of have that Doctor that they connect with. And I think that's like a big part of it too. Like there are like, I feel like most Doctor Who fans can tell you which specific Doctor is their favorite. Like it's that kind of thing where it's just, it's this one and I like them all, but it's this one. Like this is the best one because it's the one that
everyone has their Doctor.
Yeah. What do y'all think?
I mean, I think I've mentioned this before, but my very first experience of / exposure to Doctor Who was, I remember it very distinctly. I was at my friend's house, my best friend's house in middle school, and she pulled up the Ninth Doctor's regeneration scene on YouTube to show me, because she was like, "Oh, you'll really like this new show or whatever." I was convinced everyone who participated in making that show was on drugs. Just because of how insane it was. She's like, it's the same character. And I'm just like, but it looks different.
Very
but
clearly
it's the
not.
same character. How? Please explain this to me. But I mean, that's definitely the charm of the show. And kind of like what you were saying, Cameron, the Doctor is the same person. This goes back to what I was just saying earlier. Just with a different outlook. It's the same memories, the same knowledge, the same experiences, just with a different outlook each time that there's a regeneration, essentially. And I think what that sort of does within the show and in the greater scheme of entertainment is you keep the main character. What makes the Doctor so different, and within that, is that it's all about approaching similar issues from different ways, different perspectives, and how we don't see that in the same TV show. Like, Doctor Who's really the only show that does that. It's basically the Doctor as a character is basically asking, what if you take the same person or the same fundamental knowledge and experiences out of one person, stick it into another person, and take both of those people and put them in similar scenarios? How are they each going to respond differently? So they both have the exact same background, they're just different people. And I think the Doctor is such a unique character in that sense that you don't see other shows asking that question of, hey, same knowledge, same background, different person. What are you going to do about it? And then explore that base humanity of how do we as people interact with the world differently based on our own personality. Because we've explored a lot of how do we interact with the world based on our own background. Okay, what if we take that out as a factor? Exact same background, personality, and just outlook on life. One Doctor you've got riding into a fighting stage on a tank with an electric guitar. Another you've got, doing something completely different in that scenario or whatever. Like, but they have the exact same background, right? Exact same knowledge, exact same. They all stole a TARDIS. For all of them, the planet blew up, and they're the last one of their person, and they, were at one time put on trial by their own people before their planet was blown up. I could get into the whole mythos.
We've all been there. It's happened to all of us.
We've all been there. It's insane. So yeah. It's just this whole go ahead, Shani.
Oh no. I think for me on a character level, it still comes down to connection. Can you tell I'm in Enneagram 4? The answer for everything is emotions. But I think often what makes the Doctor as a character so special is his companions and the way that we see him connecting with them, and us being able to connect with the Doctor through them. For me, I saw Clara and was like, oh man, I am Clara. And it made me realize that someone like the Doctor, like this amazing, nearly immortal, time traveling being, could choose someone like me to travel through time and space. And I don't know, just thank you for making me feel special. And that's what's special about the Doctor, is he makes you feel special too.
Because of in all of time and space, there is no one else like you. I forgot the second half of the quote, but there's an exact line. I know you know what line I'm referring to.
Yep.
I just can't finish it because I don't remember it.
So as a follow-up to that, so who is your Doctor and why?
For me, I mean, it's a multi-answer.
All of them.
Of classic Who, it's the fourth Doctor. Because I feel like in this case, you kind of have to split it up between classic Who and new Who, because reasons. So classic Who, fourth Doctor. Coincidentally, I have my fourth Doctor scarf very unintentionally hanging off my closet door that I knit. No, actually, like I was unpacking and I put it there, and like it's just sort of living there now.
I was saying unintentionally in the sense of you're just living your Doctor Who life at all times.
Yes,
and
actually,
so it's just
very,
there.
very proudly, like. Plus, I knit that, and I'm going to show it off. Like it's legitimately like 7 feet long, and so I made it myself. So like I'm going to show it off to the world. So of classic Who, the Fourth Doctor, many reasons. Love his style, love his whole personality, very like inquisitive. New Who, I'm. What's the word? I'm attached to the 10th Doctor because that's when I came into the show, was going into his David Tennant's second season. So I'm very like attached to that because I'm a very what's the word for people for like when you're reflecting on the past?
Like nostalgic?
Nostalgic. Thank you. I remember like the 10th Doctor brings back all the memories of when I was in middle school and like just experiencing the whole Doctor Who world for like the first time, and like just being amazed that this was a kind of storytelling that existed, and that could be done. And then the part B, semi-secondary answer to that then is Peter Capaldi, the 12th Doctor, because as I grew with the show, I started like relating with the 12th Doctor in a different way as more of an adult rather than a middle schooler. So like there's like a different relationship there for me with the 12th Doctor in high school and college rather than as a, tween, 12, 13-year-old me who, has one outlook on life. And then there's adult me who has a different outlook on life that then sees like with Peter Capaldi's Doctor, like these completely different views in life. You've got a grumpy old man who just like is grumpy at the world. And then there's, 18-year-old me who's just like, I'm gonna fight against the adults in the world or whatever. So like it's kind of like the 10th Doctor for nostalgia, and because like that puts me back in that where was I when I started the show, but then also the 12th Doctor because it's a completely different relationship as I grew with the show, if you will. So yeah.
For me, it is 12, hands down. For a lot of the reasons I said already, like I am Clara, and it was just, I don't know. There's so many of my favorite episodes in his run. Just I think part of it is the way that he cares for Clara so deeply without it having to be a romantic relationship. They're just incredibly, incredibly good friends. And I don't know, he's like sassy and sarcastic and has eyebrows. and doesn't
Unlike
like
11.
pears.
I love that for Capaldi, they tease him with the eyebrows. That's like one of my favorite parts, is that's all it is. It's like, whoa, someone else is here. Look, they got eyebrows.
Well, and the secondary hilarious thing to that is that Matt Smith started off with eyebrows, and then they just sort of slowly disappeared. And then they then show up with Peter Capaldi, and they're like, "We're gonna give you the eyebrows back because you demanded them."
So for me, it's Matt Smith's 11th Doctor. And I feel like needing to go with what you said earlier. Part of what makes Doctor Who special is the companions. And I think a lot of what this was for me was seeing the like Matt Smith's relationship with Amy and Rory, because like there's like hardcore youth minister vibes in that. It's just like, we got these people, like stuff's going on.
Oh my gosh, I've never thought of
Like,
that, but it's so true.
And like it took me a while to like make that connection for like why I was connecting with that trio and for specific, but like Matt Smith is like hardcore their youth minister.
Oh, true.
And so
I love that.
that spoke to me for obvious reasons. And then I feel like as like that version of the Doctor grows more and more, I started to connect with it more and more. Like, he's a bit more impatient. He's a bit more brash. But like, I love, like, through all of that his whole ending is, well, I'm going to sit here and wait you out. Like, I'm a Time Lord. I'll see you in thousands of years. Like, I'll be here. And I really like that idea of him.
I'll sit here and pout like an actual toddler.
Right.
But actually follow it through.
Right. It's like, I will like spend the rest of my life protecting these people. And I kind of like that idea too of, he's so convicted that it's something that's long term. It's not something that's like not to downplay David Tennant's like sacrifices the Doctor, but like, it's not something of, oh, I'm going to do this thing and then it's over. It's nope, I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to protecting these people. And I thought that was really cool too. Speaking of like telling good ending stories, like I love that ending for him. And so I think that's a big part of it. And then, as I said earlier, I started liking Doctor Who when River Song came along, and it sure does, like, it sure helps that my favorite Doctor happens to be the one that she has the most screen time in. So there's that side of it as well. That I just like the way that story is told. Gets a little weird, but we get there. But I think that's a lot of what like helped me connect with Doctor Who was that end of David Tennant transition into Matt Smith. And that's kind of why that he is my Doctor. And so last thing that I want us to touch base on. So we are in the middle of May, which is our theme month, our theme for the month there. I've said that wrong, I think, every time. Our theme for the month is the Sage, as we've looked at these like mentor characters. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting was the idea of what role, what archetype does the Doctor fall into? And so, because I think it's a very interesting conversation. So a part of what we had discussed in our part 1 of the month, where we're looking at our theme, raising my hand here so that I can go and tag it so people can go back and check out, should be episode 205 actually. with since last week was our Doctor Strange spoiler cast, but part of what we discussed there is the idea that different people can be different roles at different times, different characters that you adapt, you change to the situation around you. And so in order to keep us from going too far down the rabbit hole with all the different versions of the Doctor, let's take this from the idea of our Doctor. What role do you think that they fall into? What archetype do you think that they are a part of, and why? And so just to kind of go through, the archetypes are the sage, explorer, outlaw, magician, hero, lover, jester, everyman, caregiver, ruler, creator, and innocent. So I'll say for me, well, I think that the main place that the Doctor kind of wobbles between is explorer and caregiver. I think that like when I think back to Matt Smith, I really like that idea of like explorer kind of into outlaw, but more so on that explorer side of he's all about helping and getting people out, getting people through things. Like he definitely has that explorer side. But I don't know. I feel like this is like such a hard question with the Doctor, which is part of why I wanted us to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because like at the same time, like as I say that, like all the words I want to use to describe him are just like super caregiver-y. And so I feel like there's that side of it too. Let alone all of like the other like archetypes. Like there's definitely a lot of these that work. So what do y'all think for your Dr. Shanine? Do you want to go for it?
Sure. Yeah, I'm like scrolling through this list looking at the strengths and weaknesses, and I'm like, he is like at least 8 of these. I think the caregiver definitely stands out, especially for Capaldi, because he repeatedly says like, I have a duty of care.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big part of his storyline with Clara. So yeah, just seeing him primarily in like that caregiver role and making incredible sacrifices for her. I think also get a bit of the hero sometimes. This lists strengths as courage, perseverance, and honor, and weaknesses as overconfidence and hubris. And it's like, oh, Doctor. And like, your Doctor is showing there. Yeah, I think those are the two that kind of stand out immediately for me. But again, it could be like almost all of the archetypes.
Emma, what do you think?
I'm going to break the rules a little bit
How dare you?
and give a 2-part rule because we all know that there's only one rule. So, in my head, the first thing that I went to is that Umbrella, if we were to take all of the Doctors and merge them into one person,
One mega Doctor, you could say.
one mega Doctor, I instinctively go to a cross between sage and hero. Like I personally feel like those two show up the most consistently throughout all of them. Not just New Who, but Classic Who as well. Because I think I'm still the only one who's seen the most of Classic Who. Don't want to claim that title if Shanine, you've seen any of it, but
some, but not lots. Yeah,
like that, like those characteristics show up a lot with the Classic Who Doctors as well. So I personally feel like the sage and hero sort of traits show up the most consistently. and then as like big picture, and then each individual doctor sort of follows the path of different ones.
Mm-hmm.
So like then going down into the specific with the 10th Doctor, my David Tennant, Mabu, my go back to nostalgia. I feel like he shows a lot of like lover traits. He shows a lot of that connection to the human race and is constantly going back to not just with the whole Rose Tyler storyline, but like often making rash decisions because of his attachment to humans, or acting out just to protect those he loves the most. With, of course, as I was talking about earlier, some of the hero and sage attributes the most, or coming in. But I feel like that, like, the concept of the lover leads a lot of his choices that he makes throughout his 3 seasons. And just how wrecked he is after losing Rose. Like, that's just one person. Like, regardless of that, like, where that would have led, like, he was constantly caught up over protecting not just one person, but hundreds of millions of people. And it could be any hundreds of millions of people, or it could be any one person. And he was just like, you're as valid as the next person who comes along. So, yeah.
Listeners, let us know what you think the Doctor's archetype is, and let us know if you're talking about a very specific Doctor or kind of the character as a whole. I think that's where we will wrap for this week. So let's get into our announcements. Do we have any streams planned for this week?
Probably not from me, unless we get a surprise stream over the weekend or something, as I currently have no streaming machine. But soon.
Yes, from me on Thursday, because I'm finally no longer moving and I have my whole setup. So yes.
And then for me, I may be streaming on Wednesday. I'm not 100% sure. And so we'll see if I'm going to be doing that. And then Sunday will just come down to if I feel like playing Elden Ring or not. And then, so that'll determine if I'm streaming here or over on Cameron plus Deanna. But yeah, so hopefully streaming on Wednesday, but we will see about Sunday specifics. And so the other announcement that we got is that our next book club is Paranisi. We talked about this at the top of the show, May 26th. So a week and a half away. It's by Susanna Clark. And so hope everyone can come back and join us for that. And yeah, that will bring us to the end of episode 206. I definitely almost said 106. I'm struggling with these numbers tonight, everyone. We skipped like 200 episodes at the start of the show. I almost just took 100 episodes away.
It's timey-wimey.
It's all timey-wimey. See, yeah, there we go.
Wobbly, timey-wimey
Definitely not me.
Stuff.
And so, but we are First Geek 411. You can find us on our social media as 1Geek411. Join our Discord server. Shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Check out our Redbubble store. And then you can watch live on Twitch, 6:45 Mountain Time, and be part of the post-show chat. See the AFK picture that I was going to use for Shanine if she wasn't able to be here this week. And then you can find our videos over on YouTube. And then you can leave comments, like, subscribe, all of those things. And then you can also find us through our personal social media. Mine is Humar Whittill.
Mine is I am not prepared with an I on all platforms.
I'm the Hoot and Howl on Twitter and Hoot and Howl Tales, TALES, on Instagram.
And it's been a great week.
cat.
Never be cruel, never be cowardly, and never ever eat pears.